Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai a croeso cynnes, welcome to What's Your Story with me, James Owen, and I'm delighted to welcome someone who has done some fantastic work and is continuing to do fantastic work for a local charity. Here in the room today, we have the Chief Executive Officer of CYCA. She's a Wellbeing practitioner, a teacher. She's lots of things, and I've not quite met someone with as much energy as Tracy Pike leading a charity. Tracy, croeso cynnes, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you come down and share your story.
Diolch, and it's lovely to be here, and as a new trustee to the charity as well, it's great to have a chat with you outside the building and get to know a little bit about you as well, James.
Well, there are. Well, nobody knows I'm a trustee yet, but you've dropped the bomb. Oh, my goodness. But I guess when this episode airs in a couple of weeks' time, yes, it would be official. But for those of you that are watching, I've been invited to become a trustee of CYCA, and I gave it some long thought, Trace. You know, it's, let's be honest, being a trustee of any organisation is a serious consideration because there's a lot of weight and responsibility that rides on that person. And in my experience, having seen what goes on in charity, I've seen some bad things happen in charities, scared me a little. But I thought, you know, based on what you've done and what you've built and the team you've got, I thought, you know what, it's a bit of a win-win here because already so much hard work has gone in to bring it to what it is today. I thought it was an opportunity I couldn't miss. So yeah, I'm very excited to get my teeth stuck into CYCA and help support you with my skill sets. But Tracy, for those who are watching and listening, you know, what does a typical week look like for you, Tracy? As a CEO, as a wellbeing practitioner, what do you get up to in a typical week? What does CYCA look like?
Well, I'd like to say every day isn't the same, but I'm actually going to say every hour is not the same. We run 2 flying start nurseries, so obviously I'm the responsible person for all the little ones that come in to nurseries. We then support at least 60 or 70 other children every week through our social prescribing funded by the Llanelli GPs. Then we run after school clubs as well, boys and girls clubs. Plus we are now working with the 5 comprehensive schools in Llanelli and 12 primary schools. And again, supporting some of the most vulnerable children in those schools. Plus we get referrals from social services and other partners as well. So I face a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas every week because I don't like to say no to any child. And sometimes the funding doesn't allow us to work with some of these children. So we're always looking creatively about offering different support. So we're now into the worlds of Lego therapy, conversational play, alongside counselling, alongside mentoring. And of course, those staff very often need immediate supervision after their sessions. If there's a safeguarding concern, sometimes there can be a disclosure. And then alongside that, I'm responsible for my team of staff, 28 in total now. And, you know, sometimes they need personal support as well. And then, of course, I'm responsible for the financial upkeep of the charity. So you get days you get good news and the grants have been awarded, and then you get days where you've spent hours and hours on a grant and it's declined. So yeah, a typical day in CYCA, there isn't a typical one, but I do love the challenges.
You do love the challenges. There's a lot to unpack there in the day-to-day work that you do, and there's so much to discuss. But, you know, if you could sum it up, you do lots of different things. CYCA does lots of different things to help support young people, families. But if you could sum it up, what is it that CYCA does? What is at its core that you try and support and help families with?
Making difference to children's lives. I'm retirement age, part-time now. I often get asked why I can't imagine waking up and not making a difference to a child's life. They're central to everything that we do. And the world is getting more and more complex. It's getting harder for children, particularly in the realm of social media. So what we do, we make differences, and that's not fixing them. That's about helping them learn to self-soothe, self-regulate, helping the parents with strategies to manage all the wide range of behaviours that these children are exposed to. And I love the team that works for me. They're so passionate and caring. I like seeing our staff grow. So, we've got 2 staff now just been newly appointed, who one came in as a beneficiary, worked her way through to a mentor mum, worked her way through and has had an award from Executive Cymru. And then we've got nursery assistants who become leaders, who become managers, who run projects. And for me, that's equally as rewarding to watch these staff grow in their roles. And I feel so proud of them and that I'm able to still extend my expertise and knowledge onto them as well.
Brilliant. And, I've got to witness some of that firsthand and to see that you truly are very proud about your team and the people who work there. And, I was nearly crying the other day. I'm a big boy, but I heard of this, we were filming a cooking session. And, I think the challenges, I'd love to share all this, but sensitivity is really important working in this in this sector. And it's hard to share those stories. I think that's why probably we've engaged is how can you tell an authentic story whilst respecting safeguarding and respecting confidentiality. It's really tough, isn't it? But you want to sort of get that out there. But, I was filming with somebody who volunteers in the organisation. And she was telling me that she cooks for 6. It was a cooking class. And it was great fun. And the smells of the room were amazing. I was thinking, I want whatever you're cooking, I'd love to have some and maybe copy the recipe. And this mother was saying she cooks for 6. And I thought, my goodness, that's a lot of food, isn't it? I said, all right, okay. Oh, so you got lots of kids in? And yes, she said she had 4 kids. And all right, okay. And, I think by the way the conversation was going, it sounded like the husband was the breadwinner. And, so what does your husband do for work? Oh, he doesn't. Oh, he doesn't. And, she was telling me a story, but her husband has got very bad health issues at the moment, is sort of facing that. I was like, you look after 4 kids, care for your husband, and you cook, and you're here volunteering, helping other women learn to cook. Oh, I had tears in my eyes. It was really emotional. I just couldn't believe the resilience in this woman. But to see that, you're championing and encouraging those people who access the service. And then you want to sort of tap into them and use them as your people to help. There was just yesterday or this week we were filming with the youth, the boys club, and there was a guy who's grown up now and he's helping out. But it's great to see that these people who have access Psych want to give back as well. It's phenomenal. And there's got to be something about the culture of the organisation. And I think when it comes to setting culture in businesses or charities, it's got to come from the top. So if the person at the top isn't setting the culture, setting and leading by example, how can you expect other people in the organisation to follow suit? So is that something that's been important for you, is seeing the opportunity in the people? They're not just ticking a box and we're doing this to win some money. It's actual people and lives that you're changing.
I mean, yeah, we're not a tick box charity in any shape or form. We've got to have the funding, but we've had a lot of funding over the years from the lottery mainly to identify individuals in the communities to come join courses. So a lot of the lady you're speaking about now, she's done 7 different courses with us, they all come in and try a resiliency course, and they go and they form their own friendship groups as well. They become support networks to each other, and then it's about seeing them grow. And, a lot of our volunteers stay with us, like Gloria, who runs the cookery sessions. She also won an Aging Well award. And it's great. But for them, I think they will say to you as well, they feel part of the CYCA family. So, they've got their own personal pressures at home, but it's lovely to come into the centre. It's their centre, as much tea, coffee and biscuits as they want. They know where the staff are based. If they want to come and see us and upload, they can. And we couldn't survive without volunteers. They're good, because another part of the work that we're doing now is we are able to employ a trainee counsellor. So the counsellors that are part of their degree need to find placements. So they come to us, and they've made a huge difference, because it just means we can reduce waiting lists. Because at the moment on our GP waiting list, we've got 30 children. And for me, that's the hardest job, is to tell a parent, yeah, we can take a child on, but it'll be March 2026. And that just doesn't sit comfortably with me. So that, again, the trainee counsellors can help us reduce waiting. And that's why we've gone into different projects, such as Lego therapy, conversational play, we can work in groups, so we can reduce our waiting list down, because that's the toughest part of the job, knowing that there's a child out there that wants to kill themselves or thinking about killing themselves. And we know that waiting lists everywhere are perhaps 2 years anyway before they get seen, and probably where their last chance for help. So our volunteers really make a difference as well. And it's, I feel very humbled and privileged that these families share so much with us of their own personal life, and they trust us, but they also, and without trust, that there are no relationships. And it takes a long time to build that trust up, but when they do, it's about empowering them to make real differences then in their own lives. So it's, I just feel so privileged to be in the position I am.
Yeah, it's great to see the positive side of what you're doing, but the very real scenario is that I just can't believe children can even it's a concept to some kids think about killing themselves. Like teenagers, I can appreciate, because they grow and things happen. You grow as a teenager, your hormones, and as if you're in broken families, those sorts of aces and traumas and things maybe show even greater as a teenager. But I think young kids think that. Oh, it's so saddening. And I guess for you as a charity, to have to say, because it's not a no, it is a no technically, but you're saying, I can't help you now, you're going to go on the waiting list. It just shows how big a problem mental health and well-being is in Wales and locally here in Carmarthenshire. And that you're doing as much as you can. How can we change that then? What do you think is needed to happen within, whether it's society, whether it's, you think it's schools and teachers, or it's parents, or to reduce young kids having those sorts of suicidal thoughts? There probably isn't a silver bullet, but what steps do you think people, society, organisations, schools, local authority, how can we get to a stage where young people are maybe not wanting to think those things?
Well, behind those children wanting to kill themselves, there will be trauma. And what we're trying to do is support the family unit. So you can't work with a child in isolation. You can provide some sort of therapy for them. But if the triggers are at home, then you have to work systemically. So our work in schools is training key staff to identify trauma. So I've gone into schools and done inset days. But also then, so getting the parents sometimes to realise that the child is traumatised, because sometimes the parents don't realise. And that can be something like having a bad experience at the dentist, losing a pet, losing a grandmother, to the extreme where they've been abused or been subjected to domestic abuse, and lots of things in between. So,
and that word, I'm traumatised, it gets a bit overused, isn't it? What does trauma, what is that? What does that mean in the sort of in layman terms?
So trauma is when, and without getting too technical, there are 3 parts to our brain. So you've got the base of your brain called your amygdala, grows the quickest in the first 2 to 3 years of your life. So any bad experiences you witnessed or heard get stored in that amygdala. And then between the amygdala and your middle brain, there's lots of neurons and wires, okay? Middle brain is your emotional brain, top is your cognitive brain. Cognitive, to make wise decisions, need to have strong connections to the middle brain. Middle brain needs to have strong connections to your base brain. So, very often parents will say, oh, yeah, there was abuse, or they would have heard this, but they were too little to understand. Well, actually, no, because that child's perception of the world is where I can't trust the world. It's a fearful world. So unless we start to work with the trauma first and get the neurons back up and firing, then you're not going to be able to progress that child. So, people saying they're traumatized, they may be a bit. I've got a little bit of concern at the moment, but it's okay for children to feel a bit sad. It's okay to feel a bit depressed for a while. It's okay to feel anxious. We don't need to label those children. And I'm very, very anti-labeling children. Because how does that label help that child? Because then they get a label. That label goes with them through school. If they get a job or they go into college, the label goes with them. And to what end? Because we know there's at least 2 or 3 years waiting services, and 50% of those children don't get that label anyway. So what we've got to do is unpick the trauma, help the children become more resilient, rewire their brains so that they can think with the right trust and support. And that needs to come from, and some of these parents have been subjected to trauma as well. And therefore they will struggle to form secure attachments with their own children. Because if a child becomes securely attached to a trusted adult in their formative years, they will become resilient adults. If they don't get that in their early years, they're going to struggle to become, and then they one day become parents, and the cycle starts all over again. So for me, it's going into schools and teaching, training as many school staff as we can. And then it's the parallel with that is working with the parents to get them to identify. And a lot of these parents do have light bulb moments when they're being assessed and go, do you know what? Yeah, it did. It can be trauma due to bullying by peers. It hasn't got to be from the home environment. It can be bullying, because as we know, it's 24/7. Social media can create a lot of trauma. So we're hearing more and more children waiting for assessments. We're hearing a lot of labels being thrown around. We know a lot about neurodiversity, and that actually is a real condition. But there's also, alongside that, what comes first? Does the trauma come first to create the neurodiversity, or does the neurodiversity come first to make you unable to cope with the trauma? So when we work with children, we see the full picture. We're very curious as to how parents were parented. Where is the secure attachment in that family? Who is the constant role model? Dad is a massive role model, particularly for boys, and the research is now out there very recently in Wales, for instance, that 76% of the men that end up in the judicial system didn't have a responsible dad in their lives. So I think we can't underestimate the role of attachments with fathers. And we're starting to do a little bit of work around that, and we've had a little bit of funding to do that. But that's something that I'm getting more and more interested in as well, yeah.
And it's, I think, important that the work that you're doing is informed and backed by science research, because you're not just having a go and this works in that school, so we're going to do Lego in this school. Yeah. There's a reason for doing these things, and it's interesting, sharing on that. So you're saying there are links to trauma and neurodiversity, or being, I think we're all. I'm starting to learn these things now, because I wouldn't consider myself as. Because I've heard of neurotypical, so I might label myself as neurotypical, because it's not obvious to me that I'm on the spectrum. But then people say, "Oh, we're all on the spectrum.
We're all there somewhere.
But yeah, do you think there's a big link between then whether it's children having autism or ADHD And is there a big link between trauma and that? Because does the neurodiversity encourage or make trauma more difficult to cope with and those sorts of things?
There's a strong link between ADHD and trauma, because I would say 80% of the referrals we get in where there's been a query diagnosis of ADHD, it's actually trauma. If you're looking at autism, then that is a different condition completely, because the child is born with that. And there's all different degrees of autism anyway. And then you have varying spectrums of autism, to being completely non-verbal to actually just having some little quirks, which would, and then if you are neurodiverse, there will be a second condition such as dyslexia, dyspraxia. So they tend to go hand in hand. And of course, we've got brain scans now of children's brains where we can show, with the right support, how those wiring can link. So we're starting to find out more. I mean, I started my career in 1979 as a teacher, and I knew none of this. So, and I wish I did. I don't think I would have treated the children any differently, because I considered myself to be very empathic. But I kind of started to learn a bit more about it when I finished my teaching career to raise my family. And I undertook a course with Open University on handling stress. And that really started to educate me about the brain and about personality types and how we grow. And from there, I set up my own business and started to train hundreds of staff, for instance, the NHS. I wrote packs for children to use in schools. And along the way, I've learned about new strategies, new research, and I'm still really interested. But for me, a secure attachment with a trusted adult in the first 3 years of their life is what creates the adult. So, and whatever label you want to give it, or whatever condition, if you've got a parent that invests in you 24/7, you'll survive. But it's knowing that it is really important. And, years ago, there'd be the grandparents living in the same street. You'd have the aunties and the uncles. There'd be a big family support network. That has now splintered because of poverty, having to move away or move out of the area where you were brought up with your cousins. So the support network has reduced right down as well. So schools now are becoming that support network, just as charities like CYCA are.
I often hear teachers saying that I'm a social worker. I think it's kind of true, isn't it? That it's not the job they signed up for, but a teacher has a significant opportunity to set somebody up for a win, or it can go the other extreme. And, you hear of experiences where people have had bad teachers, and they told me I couldn't pass an exam and I'm going to be working at McDonald's the rest of my life. You hear of some of these stories, and a teacher has the power to inspire them or to set them off on a completely different path. And especially if you don't have a role model in the family that you look up to as a child, then your teacher is going to be your next person. So I think, what you're saying there, and for me as someone who, from my experience, being brought up in a family with parents who were married, my parents weren't perfect, but I was brought up in a home with a mum and a dad, and that's benefited me. And you can see, that having, especially the father, there's no devaluing the mother at all, but the mother and the father have two completely different roles, and I think it's important to realise that dads do dad things and mums do mum things, and they work together in unity, and that's, having a strong family foundation is going to set that child up for a win for years to come. Attachments, I'm learning all about this because actually I'm doing a bereavement course at the moment. Yes, well, I'm a participant. I'm not teaching anyone about bereavement, but something we're looking at and exploring now is in the first week is attachments. The attachments we have with people, and the separation and the loss and what that creates. So, I think what might cause some trauma, and it's interesting, we've already covered this, but, trauma and ADHD aren't directly linked, but I think what you're seeing is children are being assessed and then they actually come into the conclusion that, it's not trauma, it's ADHD, or vice versa. It's getting mixed for those sorts of things. But yeah, and who'd have thought, for you as a teacher all those years ago, you wouldn't have had all this sort of knowledge about how the brain works, and yeah, so it's crazy to think that, the world we're living in now, how different it is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I've spent double the time out of education as I have in, treble the time actually. And for me, I loved teaching, and it was only to raise my family I finished. But my gosh, the journey that I've been on, as I say, the Open University was my first opening into this. And I was thrilled 2 years ago that they honoured me with an honorary master's degree for my work that I've done with their qualification, but with the support that I've been able to give over 40 years. And likewise, I had an MBE in 2018 for 40 years services to children and young people. And now I wish I'd written a book, because...
Well, you still write a book?
Oh,
you could.
No, I'm too old. But I just wish, because my goodness, the experiences, and you get your qualifications, we've all got to, but the learning starts when you've got that child in front of you. That's when the learning starts, because every family unit is different, and you've got to think outside the box, you've got to be creative, but you've got to adapt your knowledge and experience to that particular child, and no book will give you that. You can have all the sort of jargon and you can have all the knowledge. Of course, you need it. But what really teaches you, it's when you've got that family in front of you. But also then when you see that family move on, the case studies that we've got from parents thanking us, so we've literally turned their lives around. And counselling, mentoring, what are we doing? We are the constant in that child's life. We turn up every week. We're there, we listen, we don't judge. That's what they need. And so, we're bringing those services into schools as well. The listening styles, communication styles. So that's all part of the package now that we do with the schools. Because sometimes teachers say, oh gosh, what if they disclose and I say the wrong thing? And I always say to them, you'll never say the wrong thing. You just listen. Just listen and assure them that you're going to be with them for however long it takes. You'll never say the wrong thing. If be careful what words you use, that you don't show you're being judgmental. But if they've trusted you enough to share their deepest concerns, worries, trauma, that says it all, really.
It's interesting because I have this perception of you, Tracy, as being a teacher, which you were in a past life, and I guess you're teaching people and staff and all those things, but it seems like you've only been a teacher for 2 minutes, because actually most of your sort of career, if you will, has been beyond education, working as a teacher. But yeah, you spent a lot of time doing research and learning. I think it's important because, I think people have this perception of university and studying at a young age. You go to school, go to college, right? But you're never too old to learn.
Absolutely.
And I think that I've never done something with Open University, but it's becoming more and more common and publicised. And employers are encouraging people to upskill their staff and to provide, in some cases, employers are funding courses. And there's a lot of funding available to upskill staff. Why do you think, in the world of business, why is it important to keep learning?
Oh gosh, I'm still learning. I sign up for courses now, which are a lot about, but you always might pick up something new. But I think knowledge is power, and that knowledge doesn't have to be down a graduate route. That can be, favoured now are apprenticeships. I think they're a brilliant way because you're actually learning on the job. But it's about keeping the brain active. It's about keeping the brain interested. It makes you an interesting person. It's about learning new skills, because we're never too old to stop learning. As I say, I've just signed up now for another course, which I kind of know about, but research trends change. And I think it's about the friendship groups that you form as well when you go, because if you sign up for learning, you're with like-minded people who also want to. And I would think that most of my staff didn't graduate straight from school. They've all got their degrees, but have done them at different times of their lives. More recently, one just graduated about 3 years ago. So you're never too old, but I think I always use the 10-10-10 model. And when I spoke in my graduation,
So what's that, 10-10-10?
So that can be 10 days, 10 months, 10 years, or it can be 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years. But the end one must be 10 years. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you want to be? So what I said in my graduation to all my fellow graduates on that day, you've got your degree. What are you going to do with it? Think 10 years, because it may not be the next job that you do, may not be your ideal job, but it's on the ladder to where you want to be. And sometimes when we work with our clients, I often say, look, the next 10 days are crucial. You come to us for counselling. I want to see you come back next week. If you don't, then this wasn't the time for you. You weren't in the right place. If you do, I'll be really curious to see where you'll be in 10 weeks, because I'm hoping we'll have made changes. What are you going to do with your life in 10 weeks' time then? So you've had the therapeutic support. So what are you going to do with it now? Small steps. That'll be 10 months. Get about 10 years. Because if you've undergone a lot of trauma, small steps. Where do you see yourself in 10 months? And the fact you've come here today to access counselling was that first step. So in the same way you graduated, what are you going to do with this? But it's the 10-year. The 10 years, and for me, they say I'm now retirement age, I can't see myself ever not doing something with emotional health and well-being.
It's in your blood.
It's in my blood. But a 10-10 model is really useful. And never take your eyes off the goal of the 10 years.
Yeah.
And
So what happens when you've done the 10-10-10, in your case? Is there another 10-10-10?
No, I'm too old. So probably with me, it's more like 10 months now, 10 months and 10 years, probably, hopefully, in a nice warm climate, or cruising, or spending more time in my place in the sun, probably, is my 10-year goal now. I've dropped my ambitions and my aspirations, but it still would be helping people in some way or another. Yeah.
So your sort of education and the aspiration to learn more and more has all been in around health and well-being. Tell me, what are some of the things that you've learned? Maybe, I don't know, if you've written dissertations or you've done papers or written or worked on live projects. I don't know. Tell me a bit about the learnings from the courses you've done, like specifically with the Open University, because obviously you've done and given a lot to them in learning, because you've had that opportunity as an honorary graduate to share and inspire their students.
Yeah. Well, I've written a lot of papers. I've written numerous training packages. And at the moment, I'm enjoying writing brochures. So we've got so much information to give to parents. But, I don't like to say, go away and read this book. So what I've done is I've written one on PACE, which is an approach of working with children who are experiencing trauma or might be neurodiverse. I've written a paper on neurodiversity, and I'm now looking at challenging behaviours and complex behaviours. And it's quite a simplistic brochure, but it's something that you can give the parent, you can use in your sessions, but give them then small tasks to take away. So I love writing training modules. I love delivering new training. I've just written managing trauma for Agorad Cymru mediation skills. I'm an IV assessor for them, so I do a lot of supervision. But yeah, it's I think if something works, I want to share that. And, there's thousands and thousands of books out there on everything. But I try now and condense that down into something that's workable. I always trial it with parents before I publish it to see, and they can help me. So when I wrote the neurodiverse brochure, I had a neurodiverse parent to check it for me. And, there was a couple of words I'd used. She is the expert, not me. Say, well, actually, a neurodiverse brain would look at it like this or like that. So always passing on information, but always everything which we do with CYCA is based around my resilience, and that came from my OU days. It was called handling stress then, and then the new word became resilience because there was there could have been some judgment. One good on handling stress goes, does that suggest I've got stress? So I changed it because it could be perceived as that's a bit negative. You don't want to tell people, but if you go on a resilience course, that is about empowering yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
The use of words in the world of emotional health is really, really important.
Yeah.
So I refer to our beneficiaries as experiencing emotional distress, not having a mental health problem.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stigma, and you can be experiencing emotional distress and not have a mental ill health disorder. The use of language is really
language is vital because you can say the exact same thing but say it in two different ways,
Absolutely.
can you? And it can mean two completely different outcomes. So yeah, and whether it's in the world of work, how you speak to staff, or how you speak to your kids, or how teachers speak to pupils, it's also important. And I'm starting to learn all these sorts of things: what to say, what not to say. I've made plenty of mistakes by learning from social environments about what to say, what not to say. Because but you're right on the point of language. Just that handling stress, resilience, something that's come up a lot. And I think there's something in me because I don't think I've learned to be resilient. This is probably more I don't know if it's a statement or what I'm sharing, but I think I am resilient. I am resilient as a person, but I think there's just something in me that's caused me to be resilient. I don't know, is there, but I would say I don't need to go on a course because it's just natural to me, but then people need help to be more resilient, which is some of the work that you're doing, which is very interesting. But yes, I think there's got to be a link with resilience and being an entrepreneur. Because you can't be successful in business without being resilient. So if you're not resilient in a business, you're going to be gone in the first year of business because something's going to hit you and you won't succeed. But on that point of being resilient and hardworking, you've spent decades working hard for well-being, and you're passionate about young people, and that was recognised by, at the time, he was the Prince, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, tell me a bit about what was that like having, because I think it's great. I'm sure it's great to have families tell you that they've changed you, and CYCA and the men and the counsellors have helped change your lives. And that probably just puts a smile on your face every day hearing that. But to see you be nationally recognised for your work must be an achievement you're very proud of, Tracy.
Oh, it was. When the letter came, you're sworn to secrecy, and I remember the day.
Are you?
Yeah, the letter came, but you can't tell anybody. And I had my MBE in the October, and the letter came in the May. And then it's announced in the June in the Queen's Birthday Awards, because they're announced twice a year, New Year sometime. But mine was the Queen's birthday. So I had to wait nearly a month without being able to tell anybody.
What's that like for you?
Oh, I told my husband, but I warned him. And I told my two children. They were adults. I had to share it with somebody, but I said, we cannot. And then it's announced. And then you've got quite a while then until the October. But what an experience. It was then Prince, now King Charles. And of course, he's got a house in Llandudno. He does a lot with Duke of Edinburgh. So he talked to me about that. But the whole day, it was just an unbelievable experience. And, I was there alongside like Jo Malone Perfume. She was there in the same room as me. I'm just trying to think. I've gone a blank. Who else well known had them that day? Oh, I've gone a blank. But I remember specifically, Joe, there was a famous boxer, there was an actor, there was a football manager who'd been manager for years and years. And you're there, you know, just there, Tracy Pike MBE, with these celebrities and the people you treated so well, and then obviously you can take 3 of your family members with you, and you know you're driven into the.
So who did you take?
I took my husband, my mother, and my son, because my daughter lives in Chicago. So it was great, because I don't know how I would have chosen if because I would have wanted my daughter there as well. And how do you choose?
How do you choose? Yeah.
So
it'd be arguments of the family.
The decision was made for me, and they had a lovely, wonderful day as well. And it's something I'll always treasure, you know. And it's. A lot of people told me afterwards, well, I'm glad somebody like you had it, rather than somebody, you know, might have been chosen by the Prime Minister or something for your service and civil service and all that. That it went to a Llanelli girl, you know.
A real person.
And just because you don't do this job for accolades, you really don't. You do it because, as I say, children are central to everything I do. So, you know, I certainly, if I had done a 10-10-10 30 years ago, having an MBE and having my honorary graduate wouldn't have been in my radar. But it's been a great accolade, I've got to say, to have those. Yeah.
And you've got it framed. You've got the photo framed in your office.
I've got it, the photo framed in my office. You also get a very large, like a certificate that was signed by the Queen. As well, because what I didn't realise is how many committees you have to go through when you're nominated. You go through about 6 select committees. So obviously look at your back. Oh yeah, you go through obviously the first sort of looking at your background locally, but then it goes to a select committee, and then it goes to a committee with the Prime Minister and some of his officers, and that they sign it off, and then it does actually go to the Queen. Yeah, to finally agree it. So yeah, they're not just. Yeah, I didn't know either until when I went there on the day, because somebody said you've done really well. You've gone through 6 committee decisions before coming, and the final one is made by the Queen. Well, it'd be the King now. Yeah. I know.
Wow.
I know.
Where does that come in the first place then? Is there a suggestion box somewhere, or
nominate online?
Yeah.
You just nominate online, and anybody can be nominated. And you need 2 references, apparently. And then you've got to give a detailed history of why you think that person should be awarded it. Yeah. So it's nice to see more third sector chief executives getting them now.
Yeah, because, you know, David Beckham, right? He was knighted last week, this week, or in a couple of weeks ago, and you're watching this, which is great. You know, he does good work in sport, and obviously he's succeeded phenomenally in his sport. Not to say that, you know, he's not worthy of an award, but to see people who are, you know, everyone knows David Beckham, you know, I'm sure most people in Llanelli know Tracy Pike. However, somebody in Swansea or Cardiff, or they're not going to have heard about you.
No.
So to have that recognition of somebody that's doing good work in the community, it's fantastic. Well done. And I failed to introduce you as Tracy Pike MBE. Do you tell people off when they don't introduce you? It's funny, I'm meeting a friend later, my old film lecturer, Dr. Matt Jones. He's got a doctorate, right? But he's not a doctor, he's a film lecturer. But I just love introducing her. Here's my friend, Dr. Matt Jones. Because he's got a doctorate. So it's interesting with titles. I'd love to hear, we've got to hear a little bit about your personal story here, and the work you cover in CYCA. I can't believe we haven't even covered the history of CYCA, but it's been going a long, long time, and it's coming up to
45 years in existence next year.
45 years, and they're going to have a big party next year.
We are, and we're going to be approaching lots of businesses. My thought process is, you know, lots of businesses probably get fed up with being approached all the time. Can you give us funding, or can you be an ambassador for us for a year? It's a big ask. So what I thought is I'm going to approach different businesses. If there's anybody listening today, if they
link in description, sponsor now.
If they would sponsor us for a month, you know, so that's not too big a task. Perhaps run an event, raise funds for us, just give us a donation. So if we're going to do that every month, throughout 2026, and that culminates in a ball in the Diplomat then on the 12th of September 2026. And in between that, we're going to run a couple of events as well. But to survive in the third sector for 45 years is no mean task, particularly since COVID, when I know a lot of charities had to close or reduce right down. So we survived the most probably difficult time in the history of the organisation. So we're looking forward to to making more people aware of us if that's possible, not just in Carmarthenshire, but Wales-wide as well.
Because actually, you've got a good model here on how to treat and support families. That doesn't limit you to Carmarthenshire.
Oh no, not at all. We've delivered training Wales-wide, and we've had some inquiries from England to do training. That's the only positive thing that came out of COVID was Zoom. Because now, before I'd go up to North Wales to train, it'd take me 3 days. Take me a day to get there, the day, and then day to come back. Throughout COVID, I was delivering courses every week from the comfort of my lounge. So, yeah, we can deliver whatever, the need is.
Yeah, that's great. So we've got to hear a bit about your story, and if any businesses want to donate, let us know. We'd love to support that, and do something good for charity. But I can appreciate businesses get bombarded all the time, don't they? Can you sponsor this? Can you buy a table at 10? And it's hard when lots of different organisations are doing that. But something small goes a long way, doesn't it? And it is challenging because your business or the charity that you run, Tracy, is all reliant on funding. So you've got to get the money in.
Got to get it in, and it's getting more and more competitive. When I started applying for bids many years ago, you'd do 1 in 10 chance. Now it's 1 in 40.
As much as that? My goodness.
13 grants now, it's 1 in 40. So, it's getting harder. So we are looking more about procuring for services, selling services, which I'm not totally comfortable with because I like to give our services for free. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and the cost of living, everything's going up, and we've got to pay staff. So it's a balance now. We're less grant dependent than we used to be, and about selling our services more, like going into education, NHS, and those kind of disciplines as well. Yeah.
Good. I'd love to hear now. We've got to hear your story. If you could sit down for half an hour to maybe hear somebody else's story, somebody who's inspired you, maybe influenced you in your work, in your career. It could be an honorary fellow grad. If you could sit down and listen to somebody's story, Tracy, whose story would you love to hear?
Well, it would have to be somebody who has managed a charity similar to mine, and probably somebody who's been around the same and still making those differences. So there's not many huge children's charities around anymore. Well, they are like your Bernardo's and your NSPCCs, but of course the CEOs change over time.
They're quite big charities, aren't they?
And they're big charities as well. So whose life would I be interested in? Oh dear, you put me on the spot now.
Put you on the spot.
I'm just trying to think of somebody who still is doing the work, perhaps voluntary like me and is retired, but still is ambitious about making change. I think I am struggling.
I'll kill the awkward silence. But no, that's if you can't think of an individual right now, that's fine. But I think that for you it's important that you'd want to hear how somebody else has gone on to achieve great things doing what they do. Because for me, being honest, CYCA, well, I'd heard of it. I think probably, if I'm honest, probably the first place I would have seen it would have been just passing the building. That would have been my first
Yeah,
instance. Not, CYCA. Oh, I have no idea what they do. But just seeing the sign on the building, as a business owner, I'm always looking at like, I wonder who's in there. You think it's sales. How can I pitch to this business? My first impression was just, I'd seen the sign, not knowing what you do. So I think, but now getting to explore what you do as an organisation, I don't know of any charities that do the work that you do. I know lots of charities that are focused on well-being, but I think, like you said earlier, it's about treating the family, because treating the child is a bit like sticking a plaster over a wound. It might make them feel better there and then, but if they go on to study or go on to work and they haven't tackled those traumas or those ACEs, then that wound is still there. It hasn't healed. So I think what you do is vitally important. And I don't know any charities in South West Wales who do what you do.
We are unique, and I often get told this. I've spoken at a conference in London, and they were saying the same. There's similar charities, but the level, because we're only supposed to be working with what we call tier 1, possibly tier 2, which is low level anxiety, depression, but actually we're working with tier 3, say children with suicidal ideation. So the level of our work has increased, and we are quite unique, and we don't fit into one particular box, because we work with people who are on the brink of being homeless, we work with domestic abuse, we work with relationship problems, we work with, obviously, poverty, we work with recovering addicts. So we work with any individual across the board, really, all under one roof. So that makes us unique, But I think the beauty, I've lived and worked in Carmarthenshire all my life, so I also know about partners out there who we can refer to as well. And I think that's the beauty of knowing your community is, well, actually, we aren't the best people at this particular time, but I know somebody who can. So I think, and all my staff, most of the staff are local. So, we've got strong connections, particularly with Leslie, and particularly with some of our partner organisations who work in the field of mental health, and we work well together. So that's useful as well. And when in a position such as mine, is knowing your limitations.
Because you could think, there's some money we can make here off this service user with this bed. But actually, you've humbled yourself, thinking it's not an opportunity. That's not what CYCA does.
No, it's not what we're about.
Speak to this person.
Not what we're about.
That's great. If those that are watching and listening want to hear more about CYCA and the work you do, how can people find out what you're doing, Tracy?
So CYCA, CYCA, stands for Connecting Youth, Children and Adults. We've got a big website. So as the word suggests, if you put in CYCA, CYCA, our website comes up. All my staff are there, all our details are there, our email addresses are there. We've got a big Facebook following. Again, put CYCA in, you'll find us. We're on Instagram, not as much on Instagram. We find that most of our beneficiaries find us on Facebook. So we're around. We've got, if you ever come for a walk down the beach, by the lake, you can't miss us, because we've got 2 big logos on the front, on the back of the building. And give us a call, drop us an email. And I always say, look, if we're not the best people, we'll find somebody that can help. There's always people out there that are willing to help.
Great. And if those watching, listening, maybe you're not in a crisis and need support with mental health or handling stress, being resilient, all these things, the least that people can do is just share the work you're doing, because you can't argue that it is good work. So why not share that good news about what you're doing in the community? So if you live in Llanelli and you haven't heard of CYCA, where have you been? You've been living under a rock. Go and support them. Share their stuff on Facebook. And and I think that what I'm passionate about is sharing good news stories. And, you know, you're seeing so much negativity and hostility and division online. Let's be better people by sharing good things and, you know, good news story. Like Gloria winning an award.
Yes.
She won an award for the work she's doing with her cooking.
I know.
Incredible. Just things like that. It inspires me. Well, Tracy, I feel we could have 3 episodes, you know, based on your background and your history. There's so much we could talk about, but, you know, conscious of the listeners that we want to keep these brief. I don't think this was brief today, but it's been great to have you and, to see that the work you've done and, very privileged and proud to partner with you and support the organisation moving forward. And hopefully that by us working together, we can do a little bit more, that next step. You know, it might not be 10 years, it's that, you know, little step forward in hopefully sharing the good news that you do. So, Tracy, I really appreciate you taking time out your busy calendar to talk with me today and to share your story on What's Your Story.
Diolch yn fawr.